Hello there, and welcome to my Lego room. I'm TJ the Brickwright, and today we're going to be talking about a mock that has actually been up on the wall behind me for quite a while. And a few of our eagle-eyed viewers have seen it, but today we're going to do the official reveal of it. Before we get into that, though, there's a couple things I wanted to address. Number one, we have another contest coming up, and it is going to be starting. Sometimes I speak. And it's going to be starting in exactly 4 weeks from today. So I hope everybody gets their building fingers warmed up. And just as a hint, I would recommend watching Star Wars to get ready for this build. I know. I probably gave it away too much already, but there it is. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about is I wanted to give a special thank you to all my patrons out there over on Patreon who have been supporting me for so many months and over a year now for some of our patrons, which is pretty cool. And I've been doing some puzzle builds with a new system, getting ready for our next epic puzzle build, which is going to be coming up very soon. And it's going to be doing this monster. So let's hope I didn't bite it off more than I could chew like the AT-AT was. And with those things out of the way, let's show you this brand new mock. This is the eye tie. I'm just kidding. That's not actually what it's called. I actually don't have a name for this mock, and there's a reason for that. I'm not entirely happy with it. I think I can make improvements. Number one, it looks very much like an eyeball, which actually is the reason why it took me so long to actually put this together. Up on the screen right now, you'll see what originally inspired me to build this creation. So after I saw this, I kind of put it out of my mind. There were a lot of things I didn't like and I didn't agree with. As far as the design choices weren't aesthetically what I would have done. So I kind of sat back on it and kept it in the back of my mind for a while. But eventually, after I figured out the bent wing configuration like I have on last week's video, I built this ship first. Because once I figured out the bent wings, I'm like, okay, what can I use it on? This is the very first thing that came to mind. And there's a lot of things on here that I don't particularly like, but there's a lot of things that I absolutely love. So after originally seeing it and saying, wow, it looks way too much like an eyeball. It's like it's the great eye of TIE Fighter. Like you'd think that'd be at the top of a tower of Barad-dûr or something like that. It looks way too much like an eyeball for me. But as I sat there looking at it, and over time, as most things do, it grew on me. I started to like certain things about it. I started to think about why it would be shaped like that and what kind of advantages it would give. I put a lot of love and care into it, and there's a lot of reasons and a lot of things I do really like about it. But I think I still want to change it. So because I am thinking about changing it, and because I don't have any instructions or anything for it, I decided to show it to you just in case I lose some of the features that I did add to this along the way in its redesign. And some of the features I'm really proud of. So we're actually going to start by flipping it around to the very back. So on the back here, you can see that we've got two strip engine thrusters. And those are meant to basically give you the idea that it has a hyperdrive, that it has beefy engines, that it's fast. That's its main purpose. It also works as a really great handle to hold it and to swoosh it around. This thing is extremely swooshable. Like, it's crazy. It's like... Obviously, it's got a lot of firepower. We have end cannons on both sides, and then we have some large major cannons, large laser cannons on either side of the cockpit itself. I really like the wingtip laser cannons. I'm definitely going to be keeping that. And I like these cannons as well. I just think maybe the configuration needs to be slightly different. When I started designing this, the first thing was, how is it going to land? How is the pilot going to get in and out? Because that's always a problem for TIE fighters, and that's a solution that I'm always putting as a pretty high priority in my builds. So number one, it's got very flat parts on the top and the bottom so that it can land. So it lands really well and lands nice and flat. It doesn't have landing gear, but it works out just fine. Secondly, after it lands, your pilot needs to be able to get out. So the windscreen is actually upside down for most TIE fighters, and it opens up so that your guy can actually walk out. But that's not all. That's not all. It also has a ramp that pulls out. So you just grab it, pull it out. It angles down. If I turn it to the side here, you can see it a little bit better. So it goes up and in, and actually when you press it down just a little bit, it locks it into place so it doesn't just fall out. But then it's super easy to pull out because you just pop it up, grab it, and pull it out. And there you go. You've got a nice little ramp for your guy to walk out. And the ramp actually goes in right next to his feet. So if you look, he just stands up and walks right out. I thought that was pretty awesome. Now, after I did that, I noticed I had another issue, which is that I can't really get my fingers in there to get the pilot out. The windscreen's in the way. There's a lot of pieces in the way. So I made the windscreen retract just enough to be able to reach my fingers in there, grab the pilot, and get him out. Of course, now he's not going to cooperate because I'm actually filming. So there we go. We've got our guy in there. Then to put him back in, he actually just snaps right in with 2 studs at his feet, like a lot of the new Starships do. You pull the windscreen out, press it down, and yes, that can go in and out with the windscreen open or closed. It's completely separate from the rest of the build. So I think those features are what make this really awesome. But unfortunately, it made the tops and the bottom very thick, especially the mechanism for the windscreen to flow back in. The top and bottom connections are quite thick, a little bit thicker than I wanted, especially in comparison with the ball. If I made the ball bigger and the sections that connect the wings a little thinner, maybe it would still work. I'm going to be messing around with it and see if I can't make it even better. The upside down cockpit piece is something that has taken a long time to get used to, and to be honest, I'm still not entirely used to it, which is too bad. Maybe there's a better way or a better piece to use for it instead of the TIE Fighter windscreen, but I haven't seen it yet, unfortunately. All right, and that is actually pretty much all of it. I think the only thing left to do is to talk about why I designed it this way and the idea behind the build. So, as you know, I had the bent wing configuration. Finally figured that out, built this TIE Fighter. Now, why would I build it in this shape? Because I'll tell you what I ended up doing the other day is I was swooshing it around, going back and forth, woo, woo, woo. And then I went like this. I did a really hard bank to one side and went, oh my goodness, look at that. Oh, now that's a cool looking TIE Fighter. Like just vertical and everything. That's pretty cool. So why don't I do that? Why didn't I immediately start changing it and switch it to this? Well, there was a very good reason why I started it out like this. So number one, it reminds me a lot of Darth Vader's TIE Fighter. Like a lot about Darth Vader's TIE Fighter. It has the bent wing configuration like the TIE Fighter that we showed you last week. And in comparison with it, this looks beefier, it looks stronger, it looks more well protected, it looks more well armed. So this would be the TIE Advanced version of the First Order. So this would be something that possibly Kylo Ren would have used in the First Order. So let me grab the bent wing TIE Fighter back here for you. So you'd have 2 of these bent wing TIE Fighters and then one of these guys out in front of it. And it would look really good, I think, because just like Darth Vader's TIE Fighter and the regular ones were very different from each other, this is very different from that. Makes sense, right? The other reason, and this is actually a very tactical, and I thought really hard about this, so don't make fun of me too bad. But the other reason I decided to do it in this configuration was because when you are fighting in Star Wars, most of the time, the vehicles are on the same level, the same plane, while you're fighting. That means that your ship is going to be viewable from this direction, the front and the back, and then the sides. Those are the directions that your ship is going to be seen by other ships, and especially enemy ships, throughout the battle. So as I've been thinking about designing ships, I usually keep this in mind. What does it look like when you're fighting it? Is it easy to hit? Does it have giant solar panel wings on the side that are giant targets? And most of the time, ships do. In this case, I think this ship in this configuration, the eyeball shape, I think that this does the best job of deflecting laser blasts and giving your enemy a limited profile than most ships in Star Wars. And I'll show you why. And some of you have already seen it and guessed it. Number one, TIE fighters are hard to hit from the front or the back. They have the thin wings, the thin pylons, and then just the little ball. But if you get a laser shot at the ball, most of the time it would glance off because of the angles of the sphere. Same principle applies here. You have a lot of angles on the front that are hard to hit. You have the wings that are very thin profiled, so it's very hard to hit the wings at all. You'd be aiming for the ball, but again, you've got that spherical shape. And then on the back, you can see we've got all these angles on here that make it extremely difficult to get any purchase on a laser blast. Most of the time, it'll glance off and not do any damage or minimal damage. Now, so the front and back are taken care of. We've got the minimal profile like most TIE fighters do. What about the side? Well, this is where I'm most proud of the design, because if you had a laser coming in directly from the side, or even just a little bit off even, it's going to glance right off because of how sharp these angles are. So laser blast comes in from the side and goes pew, pew. You know, it diverts the blasts away even with minimal deflector power. So that's the big reason why I designed it like this, is it was so easy to avoid getting hit by laser fire in the Star Wars universe. So tilting it up like this wouldn't make any sense at all, because it would negate one of the main purposes for having this shape. And I like to have reasons for the shape. I don't like to just design shapes to have it be a different TIE fighter. It's got to have a reason, right? Well, there's one direction, or two directions. One direction. Funny. There are two directions where this thing would be most vulnerable, and that is from the top and the bottom. But that is actually where the deflector shield projectors are, right on top and bottom. That's what these dark gray clamp things that are normally on the TIE fighters connected to the wings, that's what these are for right here. These are actually the deflector shield generator or projectors. Deflector shield projectors. So even if you're coming at it from the top or the bottom, those are the directions it's most vulnerable and the directions that the deflector shields do the most work. So this ship would have been extremely difficult to destroy, and I'm very proud of that. So if you guys really do want the instructions for this, just leave a comment down below. In the past, I've said if at least 2 people want the instructions, I'll do it. In this case, if at least 5 of you are willing to pay for instructions, I'll go ahead and make the instructions for it. Otherwise, we will just catch you next time in the Lego room. I'm TJ the Brickwright, and until then, play well. Bye.